Just now, the latest news. The Russian military stopped an attempt to attack the armed forces of the criminal code under Solidar. The servicemen of the southern group of troops thwarted the attempts of the armed forces of the criminal code to advance under Solidar in the DPR. The commander of the artillery unit of the 200th Brigade showed the news correspondent a confirmation video taken at night from a drone. The calculated upla revealed the advance of the enemy, the occupation of the initial area for the offensive using forest plantations. The enemy is advancing in order to go on the offensive early in the morning. The enemy was opened, fire damage was applied to him. Approximately the group was destroyed by 80%, the gunner explained. According to him, a few hours later, the second group of the enemy was opened, which was moving closer to Solidar for an offensive in the first echelon. According to the video, this enemy group was also destroyed. Next news. The burning of the Quran threatened Sweden's membership in NATO, the media writes. Another action on the burning of the Quran in Stockholm and the sharp reaction of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan to this threatened Sweden's chances of joining NATO soon, the Millred newspaper wrote on Monday. Many Turkish officials, including President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, reacted sharply to the burning of the Quran at a mosque in the Swedish capital Stockholm. This further jeopardized the chances of the Scandinavian country to join the military alliance soon, the publication noted. Next news. The southern group launched missile strikes against the armed forces of the criminal code in 3 directions. Aviation launched rocket and bomb attacks on the accumulation of manpower and equipment of the armed forces of the criminal code in 3 directions, Vadim Astafayev, head of the press center of the grouping of the armed forces of Russia South, told the news. The aviation of the southern group of troops carried out rocket and bomb attacks on the accumulation of enemy manpower and equipment in the Lysychansk, Solidara, Artemovsky and Alexander Kalinovsky directions, he said. Next news. Sahal announced a large-scale operation in the West Bank. The Israeli military has launched a large-scale counterterrorism operation in the city of Jenin in the West Bank, the press service of the Israel Defense Forces reports. The security forces are currently conducting a large-scale counterterrorism operation in the vicinity of the city of Jenin and the refugee camp of the same name, the report says. According to the press service, Israeli security forces attacked the headquarters used by local militants as a gathering point and planning terrorist attacks against Israel. It is noted that there was also a warehouse for the storage of weapons and explosives. Palestinians wanted by Israeli security forces used this place as a shelter, the IDF representatives added. Next news. The American intelligence officer pointed out the difference in the actions of Russia and the criminal code in its own. Russia's actions in the conflict are objective, while the criminal code makes mistakes, the American ex-intelligence officer wrote on Twitter. Russia started its own, looking at the clock, trying to force the criminal code to come to a negotiated settlement. It stopped on the 1st of April, 2022. Since then, Russia has been guided by objectivity. Today it controls the battlefield. The decree writes and loses, said the former intelligence officer. Next news. An American journalist told a terrible story about the riots in France. In France, they advise not to approach the police because of mass protests, American journalist Tamala Arenas said on Twitter. My sister-in-law is in Paris right now with her family. The hotel administrator advised them not to approach the guards, because it was the police who became the target. Isn't that a crazy principle? Some kind of upside-down world, she wrote. Next news. Whose troops fired 17 shells under the NA during the night? Whose troops from 0010 to 0330 fired 17 shells at Donetsk and Alexandrovka, the representative office of the Donetsk People's Republic in the Joint Center for Control and Coordination of Issues Related to War Crimes of Ukraine reported. Next news. The Union of Exporters noted record numbers of grain exports. Russia, having overcome the sanctions barriers, has completed 2022. The 2023 agricultural year expects new record volumes of grain exports, which may amount to 58 to 59 million tons, chairman of the board of the Russian Union of Grain Exporters Eduard Zernin told the news. We consider the Ministry of Agriculture's correct assessment of the export potential in the range of 55 60 million tons. At the moment, we have already crossed the threshold of 55 million tons and expect to reach the level of 59 million tons. Thus, there is every chance to update the record of the season 2017-2018, said Zernin. Next news. Tankers used a new tactic against the armed forces of the Criminal Code in the Krasnolymansk direction. Tank crews of the Central Military District destroyed a strong point and equipment of the troops in the Krasnolymansk direction. Using a new tactical technique, the news was reported in the Ministry of Defense. In the Krasnolymansk direction, the crews of T-90 ATSVO tanks inflicted fire damage on the enemy's stronghold by using guided projectiles. Using the terrain, tankers on combat vehicles moved to a firing position at a distance of a direct shot. Having received the coordinates of the targets from the reconnaissance unit, the tank commanders used a new fire tactics, which includes the use of various types of ammunition in a short period of time, the department explained. Next news. An Israeli expert opposed the supply of weapons to the Criminal Code. Israel is pursuing the right policy, limiting itself only to humanitarian supplies of the Criminal Code and refraining from arms supplies, as there is a need to maintain a balance in relations with Russia, professor and president of the Jerusalem Institute of Strategy and Security Ephraim Inbar told the news. I think it's a good policy. Russia is our neighbor, and it is able to cause damage to Israel. We prefer not to suffer from Russia's potential actions. The UK has a big appetite. We don't have enough weapons to share them. Israel is waging war itself, the expert said, commenting on the reasons for Israel's refusal to provide military assistance to the Criminal Code. Next news. Sweden made a mistake in negotiations with Turkey on NATO membership, the media write. Sweden made 3 miscalculations in the process of negotiations with Turkey on the approval of its membership in NATO. Stockholm reassured itself that Washington's pressure on Ankara would lead to a result even without fulfilling the conditions of the Turkish side, Yeni Şafak newspaper wrote on Monday, citing diplomatic sources. Next news. In Poland, Ukrainians were detained for trying to transfer Ethiopians across the border. Polish border guards detained a citizen of the decree attempting to bring 5 Ethiopians across the border with Belarus, the border service tweeted. The border service at the Debici Tsarkovny section detained a citizen of the Criminal Code for aiding and abetting, who was transporting 5 Ethiopian citizens, the publication says. Next news. The Special Forces destroyed the VSUK equipment prepared for the offensive with Lancets. The Special Forces unit of the Armed Forces of Russia Dnepr destroyed the equipment of the Armed Forces of the SUK, prepared for an attack in the Kherson direction, the commander of the unit told the news. Aerial reconnaissance forces discovered a cluster of enemy equipment in the forest belt. It was prepared to attack our positions. After the discovery, it was decided to defeat the Lancet complex. As a result, the equipment is out of order. There are also losses in personnel, the agency interlocutor said. The video was published in the Telegram channel News.